found this very interesting tweet that I want to discuss it with you guys, and it says the following. Socialists believe that all progress is social, which means that all human problems are solved by rearranging collective human behavior. And you see this being expressed even in old TV shows like Star Trek, where the only reason that humanity isn't reaching the skies right now is because we still have conflicts, is because of our way of thinking. But once people put behind those conflicts and we join together as a planet, then immediately we discover the warp engine and we're colonizing the stars. So basically they're talking about social progress the same way as scientific progress. It's just that if people would rearrange their thinking and everyone would become a socialist, then we can achieve everything. You can end world hunger, you can end poverty, you can end racism, sexism, you can even change the weather. And this is their mindset. And they already know what is the correct way of rearranging human behavior because they have people in the academia and they believe academia to be infallible. Like once a person has managed to become a university professor, they cannot be misinformed, they cannot be wrong. Like, no, the process is absolutely perfect. It's the only human endeavor that offers no errors, and that is academia, right? So like if the Marxist academic says that in order to eliminate sexism, we need to eliminate sexist jokes, and we need to have more representation in TV shows and board games, and we need to make sure that when Dungeons and Dragons releases a new product, the orcs are portrayed differently, then they unironically believe that that is the way forward. That is the way to social progress, and everyone needs to agree with that. Everyone needs to think that. Everyone needs to believe that you need to see fat women in commercials, that you need to see people with cellulitis and skin disease and vitiligo in video games, because that is the only way we can eliminate discrimination, because that's what their university professor said, that they're infallible. So once you understand this, you will realize, okay, but despite the fact that we did all this, despite the fact that every commercial now has interracial couples in it, despite the fact that we have LGBT acceptance, despite the fact that we have all of the, there's still problems, right? There's still sexism, there's still racism. Why is it? Well, because not everyone is thinking that way. It's something that's unfalsifiable, basically, right? They will say, if everyone does this, then we achieve utopia. And if utopia isn't achieved, it's because, well, not everyone is thinking this way. So there's still more work to be done. This is something that the activists always mention. So the reason we have problems is because there are still people that exist which are in the ways of progress. Now, when you look at dictatorships, when you look at socialism throughout history, this is basically the same argument that the dictators or the revolutionaries were making. It's like, okay, the reason you have poverty and inequality is because people do not arrange in the appropriate manner. The appropriate manner is to put a group in charge, right? We put some socialists in charge, and they seize the resources. They take your wealth, and they take everyone's wealth, and then they will redistribute it equally, because those people in charge, they know better, right? Like, they're socialists, so they're smarter than everyone else. They're also more empathetic, they're more compassionate, and they want the good of the people. So they start seizing the wealth, they start seizing the resources. Everyone that's against this is a problem, and usually they get lined up against the wall, as happens in most dictatorships. And the only reason that poverty isn't ended is because there's still people resisting. Like, there's still people hoarding goods, there's still people hiding goods. You know, like, the government would definitely want to redistribute the wealth. It's just that it didn't take enough to redistribute properly, right? There's still people hoarding and so on and so forth. Now, you get to see this happening on internet forums, and I find it very interesting. Like, you would have a community on Reddit back in 2018 or on various forums, and they would have people talk about video games, right? And all of a sudden, you would have like a couple of activists going in there, and they would say, wow, this community is filled with racist, sexist, xenophobic bigots. And everyone was like, what? No, it's not. Yes, it is. You know, the only reason this community isn't bigger, the only reason you don't have more women in the community is because you have too many racist, sexist bigots. So then someone is like, okay, well, what if we put this activist in charge and they will fix our community and we'll be more inclusive. We'll get more people. We'll reach the utopia. And once you put the activist in charge, they start banning people, they start kicking people, and the community still isn't inclusive. And it's like, well, it's not inclusive because there's still problems. Like, look, this guy still made a joke. This guy still said something offensive. And what happens, as you get to see, is that the people who do not comply, right, like the people that do not agree with the activists, we saw what happened with Godot. Like, they automatically get banned, blocked. There's no more conversation. Right? Like, they just bring you the socialism. In the case of Godot, they bring you the woke ideology. And if you reject, they will ban you. Right? Like, this is what they do. So, but what happens with the people that do comply? Right? Because there are people that are afraid or genuine believers, and they do comply, and you still don't have paradise. So what they do is they will say, well, we need to find out which one of us is still the problem. Like, there must be still some people out there that are sabotaging us, that are against us, and they start purging. And you get to see that this has happened to many forums in the past, where once the moderators have banned almost everyone, they start banning themselves. I think like Atheism Plus is one of these examples where the forum just ended up dead because most people left, and you just had moderators banning each other. And this usually also happened in certain dictatorships where you have like the inner party members just accusing each other and sabotaging each other. It's just gross. But what's interesting is the false premise. The idea that all problems can be solved if we just reorganize society, if we just reorganize the way people think. The reality is that problems can be solved with scientific progress. And scientific progress is very difficult to accomplish. Not everyone can do it. And it takes time. Now, imagine that you are in Europe during the Black Death. There's no rearranging of mindsets. There's no rearranging of society if you don't understand germ theory. If you do not have the scientific advancement to understand what germ theory is, what causes the disease, how to make antibiotics, you cannot cure the Black Death. You basically are unable to, right? So even if you were to change the mindset of people or to give the government more power, if people paid more taxes to the king, there is nothing that can be done. And this is the reality that, and the problem is that you cannot tell these socialists that they're wrong because they unironically believe it. And if you tell them that they're wrong, then you're an enemy. They'll try to ban you or block you, right? And this is what's happening in the West right now with a lot of woke movies and woke video games that are coming out. This is why they get so angry when you criticize it or when you call it woke. They were like, well, why would they get so upset? I remember back in 2016 and before that, if you tell someone, I don't like this movie, the characters are fucking ugly, I genuinely don't like it, people will be like, oh, okay, I guess, It's still the same with anime today. If you tell someone, I don't like an anime, the art style is gross, they will be like, oh, okay, I guess, like there's other anime you can watch. But if you tell someone, yeah, I didn't like this Silent Hill 2, the way they created the female character, it's gross. Oh, but like, what are you saying? What are you implying? Are you saying that you cannot have androgynous women in real life, right? You're basically telling them that you're rejecting their ideology. Because they believe that in order for sexism and discrimination to go away, you need to have video games with characters that look gross, so that people normalize grossness, and then when you see grossness on the streets, you're more, well, actually, it's not that you're more you're not that you're finding it more appealing, it's that you wouldn't even question it, right? So when you tell someone that you don't like a video game, for them, it's not that you don't like entertainment. Like, for them, it's personal. You're basically telling them that you're rejecting their ideology and you need to be banned after that. Like, they will go out of their way, depending on how influential you are, to attack you and to vilify you. And this is why the double standard exists when you have a game like Hogwarts and you have leftists that are attacking VTubers and other people that are streaming it. It's because they don't view it as hypocrisy, since Hogwarts isn't supposed to push the woke ideology, so it's fine to attack people who like the game. Meanwhile, if you have someone that likes Stellar Blade, it's also okay to attack them because Stellar Blade goes against the ideology, right? It doesn't have disgusting, disturbing, androgynous people in the game, so it doesn't try to normalize that. But if someone is attacking Forspoken or Concord, then, well, they are attacking the core woke games. And before those games were released, there were people that were very defending of these games, and none of them were actually wearing the avatars of the characters from Forspoken. They couldn't name like 5 people from Concord because they don't really care about the game itself. It's not about entertainment. It's about like pushing socialism and rearranging society, getting people to accept. Like once everyone accepts that these games are awesome, and once everyone starts buying these games and, you know, proves their dedication to the cause, they believe that sexism and racism and misogyny will stop existing because this is what the academia told them. So let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.